I wanted to put out a quick little video. I'm out on my work break walk actually. I like to take a walk every hour, just one lap around the food forest, just kind of keep my, keep the bones moving, the old bones. I tasted one of the sea buckthorns, the named varieties that I have, and I thought, you know what, I need to do a video on this. So we're going to do a quick sea buckthorn video. What sea buckthorn, why do you want it in your food forest? And what do you need to look out for with an invasive plant like sea buckthorn? Stick around.
So sea buckthorn is a nitrogen fixer, which makes it a great plant for your food forest, but the reason we're planting it is absolutely for the berries. They can go toe to toe with any plant on the planet for a competition for the healthiest berry on planet Earth. Sea buckthorn berries are absolutely loaded with vitamins A, C, E, fiber, beta-carotene, as well as carotenoids. The berries are also loaded with omega-3, 6, 7, and 9 fatty acids. Omega-3, everyone knows the benefits of, but omega-7 is very interesting. Also known as palmitoleic acid, it's a very powerful antioxidant, which means it can fight cancer and absorb radiation, and as well it has tons of healing properties and anti-aging properties. I'll link below to an article that discusses this in more detail if you really want to get into it. They aid in the production and synthesis of collagen. They promote cognitive function and bone health. They're involved in regulating heart rhythm, reducing cardiovascular disease, prevention of tumors, and alleviating symptoms of aging. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Check out the article listed below in the description.
These wild varieties are extremely thorny. I joked about this in another video, but even the thorns have thorns. So you can use actually these thorns as nails, in a pinch. Nails or needles in a pinch. They're brutal. This is on a wild variety though. The berry size, you can see, is pretty good. They were much, much smaller before. This year they're getting better. And they're very, 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 very sour and bitter, but they have a really nice flavor, which I actually love. So I went from disliking this berry to I'll actually come out and wild forage it all the time because it's just really delicious. It's an acquired taste 100%, but if you do eat it and you give it a try and you keep eating it, you'll find that you actually end up kind of liking it. Okay, so what you have to watch out for is that they spread rhizomally under the ground. They'll send out a runner and then they'll shoot up. And they are very, very prolific spreaders. So this tree, for example, here next to the serviceberry was the one that I planted. And you can see that it's sent up runners all over the place. And if we go down low, you can kind of see them in there. And they're all the way in the back there. And they're coming out on them. Spreading isn't the worst thing in the world. They're on a lot of invasive lists, but it's because they do really well in destroyed and damaged ecosystems. But the really important thing about that is that they don't displace any plants and they don't prevent other ecosystems from developing because they don't block sunlight. So let's show you what the ground looks like under one of the sea buckthorn plants. So right here, we'll look at the soil underneath comfrey, for example. There's almost no sun getting in there at all. Moving over to the sea buckthorn though, there's almost no shade. There's almost no shade in there. It's all dappled sunlight through the sea buckthorn plant. So it doesn't really block any sun. And in fact, more importantly, is when this plant gets shaded out, it dies immediately. It's one of the things it's least tolerant to, growing in shade. So that means it establishes the ecosystem, it provides a food source, it's got thorns to keep animals out from overgrazing, and then once the trees get up above the sea buckthorn and start shading the sea buckthorn out, it dies and it gives back. So it's on invasive lists. It will spread. It will not choke out ecosystems though. And, well, got a dragonfly going around the garden. It won't choke out ecosystems, and it actually leads to better soil health and better plant diversity. And you can see just how wild and thriving this whole area is. And it's had sea buckthorn in it for about 4 years now. Is it spreading? A little bit, but is it choking stuff out? Like, not at all. There's, you know, ask all the ground covers existing underneath the sea buckthorn how they're doing. There's strawberries growing underneath the sea buckthorn. So it's totally healthy for the ecosystem. It's labeled as invasive, but look at the fertility. And look at that peach. Oh my God, I just love this tree. I love this beautiful, beautiful tree. But it certainly does spread. This is next to the peach tree here, and it has, this one tree has sent runners out all over the place, even right under the strawberries, and look what's popping up in the strawberry patch. Now, because this is a nitrogen fixer, you can cut it at the ground level and part of the roots will die back. Less so than other plants, because this root that's going all the way down here is actually hosted by the mother plant. So if I were to dig and sever that and then come by and cut this, then the root would try to send shoots up, and as I'm cutting those, all the nitrogen nodules are dying off. So you have to kind of treat them a little bit different than other kind of chop and drops. If you want to really release those nitrogen nodules, just cutting this may not do it, because that whole entire root is still connected to that plant over there. Coming around to the other side, you can see that this plant here has actually sent roots underneath the rhubarb and the haskap and the strawberries and the lilies, and it sent them over here, and one's popped up. It sent them popped up, popped up, popped up, and even as far over as here, and popped up. So I'm going to have to watch these and cut them. Ideally, you want to plant them in an area where you maybe mow around on all sides, and you don't really have to worry about birds spreading the seeds. And you'll know what I'm talking about in January when you come look at your sea buckthorn plant, and it's still looking like this, full of orange berries. You can pick these actually even in like February or March, and you can still pick them because nothing else really likes to eat them. Some birds will get some, but my experience is that I see berries on plants in March, so that kind of tells me that something's not much is eating them. Okay, so you've seen the thorns on the wild versions, and you've seen the berry size on the wild versions. I want to show you my named varieties, show you what varieties they're called, and show you the berries on those. We've been eating quite a bit of them actually, so I think there's one berry left. And then what we're going to do also is we're going to dehydrate them, and we're going to see what they taste like dehydrated as well. Okay, so we are down at the pond, and when I say, you know, think about where you want to plant plants, this is kind of what I'm talking about for these runnering type plants. This is where I chose to plant these sea buckthorn. It's a very, very specific reason, because the roots are hitting rocks on all sides except through here. So I have one tiny choke point where I need to monitor for runners. And I can even use any runners that come through here. I can dig them up and transplant them somewhere else. So let's look at some of the berries on these plants. So these berries are much, much bigger. You can kind of see this one here. I would say they are at least twice as big, maybe 3 times as big. And that's my only one left on this variety. This variety is called Chuksaya, and Chuskaya. And this variety here is the same as that one there, and I have a third one planted here because you want different varieties kind of cross-pollinating. You want approximately 1 male for every 7 females in order to get proper pollination. And I have a bunch of wild ones around, so pollination is not a problem for me. But if you're starting fresh, you want a couple different plants. And often it's very hard for nurseries to tell if you have a male or female variety. So you'll buy them kind of not knowing. So just go out and buy a whole bunch of them. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? What are you doing, Harry? Okay, this variety here is called Hergo, and the berries are about the same size as the wild berry, but the flavor is much less bitter. And I don't know if this is telling, but it's put on way more fruit set. Yeah, the flavor is incredible. Very, very strong. A little bit bitter, wild, but quite good. Now, typically wild berries make really good jams as well, because you can kind of sweeten them up as to your taste. And this is Hergo. Okay, and last thing, looking for thorns. So you saw the thorns on the other wild ones. Look at the thorns on these. Still very thorny. I think you would call this a very thorny plant compared to most plants, but much, much better than the hypodermic needles of the wild ones. So much better, and actually, like, I can't see any thorns at all up here. So they're just a few of them. Like, this is really soft here. This thorn here. And this one. So overall, I would say this is a much larger improvement. Sometimes they're hidden into the leaves. See, so there's actually, get that out of the way. There's actually a little thorn there, hidden inside the leaf. So you just have to be careful. But this is actually way, way better than the other variety. And this is fixing nitrogen for the soil. I can prune it, I can make cuttings from it, and it's a companion plant to the peach. So it works really well in this area, and these varieties specifically, I might pick another couple up because I actually am a big fan of super medicinal, you know, food is medicine foods. I really do think that, you know, doing this over 3 years or so, the difference in how I feel is just night and day. I feel like Superman, and I never used to feel that way, even when I was working out even more than I do now. In university, I used to work out twice a day because I was on the varsity baseball team, and I never felt as good as I do now, eating all this fresh food and healthy food. I really do think it makes a big difference in the way that we feel, and even the way that we then interact with each other and spread, you know, love versus negativity. I think it's critical that we as a human race find ways to improve our health, because I think it really snowballs and spirals out to other things as well. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video, and I'll see you on the next one.